When I first moved into my new apartment, I truly thought I had the best luck of my life. But now, I'd rather have chosen to live under a bridge than stay here. The neighbor's curtains, always drawn, are a warning. Last month, I finally moved out of the old shared apartment and into a place of my own. The location is great, and the rent is reasonable. The only strange thing is the neighbor next door. His curtains are always drawn tightly shut, whether it's day or night. On the first day I moved in, I looked out the window and noticed that the whole apartment building seemed normal, except for his unit. It looked like the windows were covered with black cloth, no light could get through. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, until the third day. I ran into the delivery guy downstairs, and he asked if I'd ever seen the neighbor next door, saying he'd knocked several times without getting an answer. I casually replied, I haven't seen him either. The delivery guy looked up at the tightly shut curtains and sighed, it's strange. Every time he picks up a package, he has us leave it at his door, and it's gone before dawn. I didn't think much of it, assuming he was just some reclusive oddball. But that night, I heard a sound. At 2 a.m. I was woken by a strange scraping noise. It seemed to be coming from next door, like something sharp was dragging along the floor. I pressed my ear to the wall and listened for a while. The sound was intermittent, sometimes quick, sometimes paused, like someone was scratching at something with claws. I mustered up the courage to knock on the wall and shouted, Hey, what are you doing? The sound stopped. I waited a minute with no response, then went back to bed. But over the next few nights, the noise repeated, each time louder than the last. I even heard a low buzzing sound, like electricity flowing through some kind of machine. My curiosity started to outweigh my fear. On the fifth day, I casually asked the landlord, What's the neighbor next door like? The landlord seemed a little uneasy. His name's Isaac. He lives alone, very quiet, never causes trouble. Is something wrong? Oh, no, I lied. I just wanted to say hello. He seems pretty mysterious. The landlord quickly ended the conversation, and I had a sense that something wasn't quite right. That night, I decided to try knocking on Isaac's door, even if it was just to say hello. But as I got closer, I suddenly felt something cold underfoot. The carpet was wet. I looked down and saw a dark red liquid flowing out from under his door, mixed with a foul, fishy smell. Blood? I tensed up and instinctively took a few steps back. Just then, the door made a faint click, like a chain being undone. I held my breath, staring at the door, waiting for it to slowly open. But it didn't. Instead, I heard footsteps, slow and heavy, approaching the door. I quickly ran back to my apartment and locked the door behind me. The whole night, I kept an eye on the peephole, but nothing happened. The next day, I couldn't hold back anymore and called the police. They came, searched the place, and told me they found nothing unusual. They even said Isaac wasn't home and advised me not to jump to conclusions. I was furious, but there was nothing I could do. The truth came out when I secretly peered through his window. That day, I hid in the bushes downstairs, using binoculars to watch Isaac's window. As the sun began to set, I finally saw some movement behind the curtains. A figure slowly stood up, facing away from the window. His neck stiffly turned, his head pressed against the curtain, as if he was looking right at me. I stepped back in fear, but then I realized, it wasn't a person. Behind the curtain, there was something that looked like a human face, but with no eyes or mouth, just a blurry outline. It slid along the curtain, like some kind of liquid soaking through the fabric. My mind went blank, and I almost screamed as I fled back to my apartment. After that, I moved out for good. A few weeks later, I heard on the news that someone had gone missing nearby, another person. I knew I should have told the police everything I'd seen, but I also knew, no one would believe me. You know, the kind of neighbor who always keeps their curtains tightly shut? If you have someone like that living near you, don't try to uncover their secrets. The truth might be even more terrifying than a nightmare. The missing person cases are still ongoing. If you've ever had a neighbor like this, leave a comment and share your story. Maybe we can piece together some kind of truth.